Dobrodošli u Bliske susrete jezične vrste, prvi hrvatski podcast o jeziku. Ovdje smo nježni prema jeziku, liberalni smo i gledamo gdje se i kako koristi, pa tako ne razgovaramo samo s lingvistima i prevoditeljima i lektorima, nego i s raznim nejezičnim zanimanjima, s pilotom, s odvjetnicom, nogometašem, reperom, enigmatičarem i tako dalje. Zanima nas jezik kao živi organizam. Hvala što slušate, pretplatite ste na podcast kanal ako niste, na bilo kojoj audio podcast platformi, najpopularnije su Spotify, iTunes i Google, i zapratite nas na društvenim mrežama ako niste, najsmo aktivniji na Instagramu. I ako možete odvojiti par minuta u vašem danu, molimo vas ispunite anketu o slušanosti koja će nam pomoći da budemo bolji, a link je u opisu epizode. Danas, po drugi puta u povijesti ovog podcasta, epizoda će biti na engleskom jeziku jer nam u goste stiže, odnosno vraća se Cody McClain Brown. On je Amerikanac iz Zagreba. Cody je gostovao vrlo rano u ovom podcastu u epizodi broj 8, a ovaj put razgovaramo o dvojezičnosti, o hrvatskom i američkom obrazovnom sustavu, posebice kako se engleski uči i usvaja ondje. Pričat ćemo si dad jokes, spomenut ćemo pisanje njegovo i stand-up komediju, a naravno i punicu i propuh. Uživajte u epizodi.
Bliski susreti jezične vrste.
Welcome back, man. Welcome back to the podcast. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yes.
Haven't talked to you in a long time, professionally, like this.
Yeah.
We did an episode in the pandemic. I think you were one of the firsts.
Yeah.
You are one of the first supporters of the podcast. You agreed to come when nobody had heard of the podcast before that, and you supported the podcast. And now we're one of the best.
And you, wait, sorry. And you are who?
Guy.
No.
Guy.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. This is going to be the second episode ever to record it in English, and you were the first and the second.
That just speaks to how bad my Croatian is. So.
Could you do it in Croatian?
With lots of mistakes, sure. But
people can understand you.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
What is it? 2023? So almost 12 years.
12 years.
11 and a half.
Good. So you're kind of like C1 level Croatian then?
Mm-mm.
No?
I mean, officially, yes, because I had to do that to get my job.
What did you have to do?
It says to be employed, I had to have excellent Croatian, and I have a certificate saying I have excellent Croatian.
What does excellent mean? In
well,
terms?
that's the thing. Is it?
It's like a common European reference level.
No, they don't use. They didn't use that.
But how do they assess you? Do they assess?
They don't. They don't assess me. So
how do they know?
Because I took advanced, beginner, and advanced, intermediate, and beginner Croatian.
So that's part of that.
Beginner,
and they know that.
Advanced. Yeah, I mean, I have a record.
You have to supplement that to the application.
Like a Poltverda. But like in terms of like having a test, like C1 level for non-Slavic speakers is very difficult.
Yeah, that's murder.
I mean, I went to Croaticum and they were like, "Good luck." They're like, "You'd have to be Polish to be able to get C1." And I was like,
you
okay.
have to be Polish.
So,
and how's the R and the R?
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, I learned how to do that because with my daughter's name, like when I would say it without it, like it was just weird. So yeah, I can say like, and also because when I first got here, I would say like "Ja živim u Hrvatskoj," and people would be like, "Ugh," right? And so once I learned how to say like Hrvatska,
how would you say it? How would you say it now? Say it now.
Hrvatska.
No, the whole sentence.
Oh, ja živim u Hrvatskoj.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
So
that's good.
like
12 years. That's good.
Well, but the thing is what matters most to Croatians is the pronunciation, not the padeži, not the cases. Like people don't care if you screw up cases. Mm-hmm. Like they just want to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
And this is every kind of conversation, or are you talking like waiters, restaurants?
I mean, when I'm not with friends or family, even when I'm with some friends, we speak in Croatian. But like if I go to the doctor, dentist, whatever, it's all in Croatian. Mm-hmm. Everything I do outside of work and like with people I know is in Croatian.
Does it happen that this is what happens to me? I learned Spanish, for example, taught myself Spanish A1, went to Spain, used it. But then, after a while, so let's say you're ordering drinks and coffee, and then there's another question from the waiter, and you answer the question, and there's a third question, and then it gets too far. Mm-hmm. It gets too deep. And then I don't have the apparatus to answer the question. Does it happen to you still?
Not in that kind of situation. It also depends on like what kind of Croatian the person speaks, right? Like if it's somebody who is going to speak like sort of general standard Croatian, then I'm fine with it, right? But if it's somebody who's
dialects, you mean?
Yeah, dialects are a lot of slang, especially like local slang.
But our slang, local slang.
You know, then I won't understand it. You know, I understand Croatian pretty well because I listen to my wife and daughter speak it. And I want to make sure they're not talking
about me.
Your daughter
still speaks to you in American English?
She only speaks to me. She's
bilingual.
She's completely bilingual. Like she cannot speak to my wife in English, and she can't speak to me in Croatian.
Yeah, we spoke about that in the first episode.
Yeah,
and I mentioned you in the episode on bilingualism. It's so weird. And I spoke to her, right? I spoke to her at the bar when she was, passing by. It was summer, and I addressed her in English, and she answered in English. So do you think if she saw me now, well, she probably doesn't remember.
Yeah, but she would probably go. I mean, if you address her in English, and your English is good enough, then it's funny. She has a friend. Did I talk about this last time?
No.
She has a friend who's also father's American, mother's Croatian, and they started off in English because they were with Jonathan and I, and we were speaking English.
Okay.
But then sometimes she's the only person she'll switch with. So sometimes they'll speak in English, and then sometimes they'll speak in Croatian, because to them but their main language is English, and I think that's because they started because if they had met with the two moms, they would have spoken Croatian, but because we were speaking English, they went with English.
Does your daughter ever hear you speak Croatian and be like cringe?
Oh yeah. The other day, I mean, maybe like last year, we were in the elevator, and there was a pizza guy. And he said something, and then I said something. And then when he got out, my daughter was like, "Do you think that guy understood what you said?" And I was like, "He seemed like it." I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, I understood what you were trying to say because I understand your bad Croatian, but I don't think he understood." I was like, "Okay, I don't know."
Do you have some words that you like that sound good to you? Like pretty words?
I have words.
Cool words?
Yeah, I mean, that sound funny, like portapak. And poklopac. And, zoob for,
what about the vowel-less words?
Like smrt? Yeah, that was, it was hard, dealing with the vowel-less constructions,
because English doesn't have that, right?
Not unless it makes one, we'll have what is it, diphthongs?
Diphthong,
that create that, but in terms of like a word, no, it's like a lot of, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what, used to be, I'd say smrt, right?
Smrt.
Yeah, now I can say smrt.
Dervish and smrt.
Dervish is smrt. Dervish is smrt.
It's interesting, right? And what kind of improvement do you see over the 12 years, except for the pronunciation? Do you notice any I can do this now?
No, because I feel so bad about how bad my Croatian is.
How often do you speak it? I mean, every day?
Yeah. I mean,
it work?
No, I mean, it worked to some of our colleagues, yeah.
Hey, have you ever felt that people avoided speaking to you because they feel like since Croatian is not your native language, that they would have troubles? Do you get this feeling that people sometimes try to avoid talking to you in Croatian?
Yeah, but it's mutual. It's like, I mean, if it was English, I would be talking all the time, but I don't want to initiate a conversation and then have it get off the rails or and because at work, that's people will use phrases or things that I'm not familiar with because it's it's a higher level,
academic.
Yeah, academic stuff, right? And so and it's it's a little bit odd, and then it's also odd. Some people will only speak to me in English, right?
Why is that? Is it because they feel comfortable, more comfortable because of you?
I guess so. I mean, I think it's they just know that my Croatian's not the best, or they don't mind, or I mean, I don't know. It's just they just speak to me in English. And then I have other colleagues that will only speak to me in Croatian, and I also which is fine. I mean, it's their language. I mean, I'm in Croatia, so I don't mind. But sometimes it's
improvise, adapt.
Yeah, it can be, but sometimes it can be really fast or like, because it's like you do miss out on these social interactions because, people like to joke around or make a play on words or something, and then that's lost. Or even if I understand it, there's like a lag, right? That delays the humor and makes the situation awkward. So it's better just to.
So you would? Are you having trouble with puns in Croatian?
Yeah, with some puns, and that's why like when I do get a joke, it's like I think it's super funny.
Like Tony Stark, like Steve Rogers. When he gets the reference in Avengers about Wizard of Oz.
Right, exactly.
I understood that reference.
Yeah.
5 minutes later.
It's like when I watch my friend Borna's stuff on primetime, right? Like, especially when he and Jan do like these little skits at the beginning. I love it when I understand that and get it, and I just think it's hilarious.
That's like the advanced level of language understanding. So that's...
Yeah, but it's like, it's not 100%, right? So, I mean, a lot of times, even in humor, you don't get it all. And also, not to disparage academics, but they're also, like, not the most socially fluid people, So, a lot of times, like, it's like the awkwardness of academics.
It's already awkward.
Yeah, right, in general, and then added to language confusion, So, it's just...
What about your students? Do they know that you can understand Croatian well?
I don't know, actually.
Do you ever catch them, speaking behind your back in Croatian?
No, I mean sometimes, but
Cody.
No. I mean, but I'll eavesdrop on like a conversation,
really?
and then
you'll be like sitting behind your computer in the classroom, and
then they'll be talking, and I'll be like, and I'll reference it, and then they're like, oh, you understand that? Like,
don't reveal them to them.
Well, I mean, I don't care. I don't have any secrets.
Yeah, but they do. So faculty work, this has been how many years now?
It'll be 10 years in February.
And we spoke about this in our last episode about how good our English is. And we always emphasize that, right? Croatian people's English is pretty good.
Yeah.
Just to go back to something, this kind of identity and language, we spoke about this throughout some episodes that when you switch to, for example, for us, when we switch to English and we start using a foreign language, especially if we've acquired it to an advanced level, our identities seem to change in a way that we sound different, as in our voice is different, that our gestures are different, and that our kind of behavior changes. And my theory is that it's all based on how we learn the language. We learned it by watching authentic people use language, and then we model and copy that behavior. So technically, it's not our behavior. The way we learn the language from other people is the way we copy their behavior as well. And we are constructing this kind of different identity.
This explains why when I'm holding a wooden spoon, I speak much better Croatian because I learned most of it from Punica.
But would you agree? Have you thought about it? And that's why I want to ask you, Croatian, do you notice this with Croatian as well? You being on the other side of this?
Yeah, sure. I think it's, it's less noticeable now because it's so regular in my life, like speaking Croatian, like I don't feel like I'm somebody else.
But have you noticed that you are copying Croatian identity into the language?
I guess so. I mean, I understand that there's a mimicry involved.
Yeah.
I move my hands. I say like things. Even phrases I would say. Like I would never say, Bože Isuse in English, right? Or jebem te mater. Like I would never. I don't. Those aren't.
But when you say this, do you have this sense that you're saying it as Croatian would say it? You're not just using the words. You're also using everything that surrounds.
Yeah,
the
word. Context. For it. Yeah, that's what being learning a language. A lot of it is. I would say too, like this gesture, like the Croatian shrug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use that now, and I never use that in English.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, it's definitely there. It's just I'm not as aware of it because it's
When I spoke to my students, we always speak in English all the time, from, off the, inside the classroom, outside of it, on Teams. And then it happened that somebody knocked on our door at the classroom, and I think it was a guy on the reception or something. And then he asked me a question. I said in Croatian. I answered. And then students told me later, you sound so different in Croatian. And I asked why. So they said, your voice is deeper. So you sound like a different person. That's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm always interested in this kind of, like, you never just using the language. You're using the culture, the context, the mimicry, the gestures, everything that is coming from this language, especially if it's authentic, if it's movies, if it's shows.
Well,
if it's
that's why, like, for a language like Croatian, where you don't have a lot of exposure to authentic, original production of it, that's why when I got here, I'd studied Croatian for 3 years, but I still spoke like, ja živim u Hrvatskoj, like,
because you studied from books or what?
Yeah, I studied from books or, a little bit in conversation with the class, but and so it took getting here and sort of learning the cultural rhythms to then actually be able to
social phrases, like even fillers, everything, right? Yeah. Social English, we call it social English phrases, so Croatian.
Yeah, like if you want to sound smart, you say sub-zero for everything. Sub-zero, it's like, međutim, sub-zero.
I've never said međutim. I've never said it in regular conversation. I've never said it in my life. I don't know why, but it's such a good word.
Yeah, my wife watches the channel N1 all the time, right? And everybody they have on there, it's like blah 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 sub-zero, blah 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 sub. And I'm like, oh my god, like,
they don't say pošto sam. Let's go back, 50 years ago when you were a kid in Oklahoma.
50 years ago,
yeah.
Huh?
Sorry, is it 50?
Yeah.
I meant 40. For us, it's all about American TV. And it's about movies and shows and cartoons. I mean, the other day we had an episode, Anya and I did an episode on our close encounters with language growing up. And we have this phrase, we are satellite children, because we would watch satellite TV, and there was, Cartoon Network, there was German TV, and that's how we learned the language. And this is second language, so we're, acquiring this as a foreign second language. What about for you when you were a kid? Did TV and cartoons, did they play any role in your language acquisition?
Probably. I mean, I can't. I learned the word cobra from G.I. Joe. No, but they definitely played a role in, like, my identity and my humor and stuff. Like it's actually kind of like a crisis for people my age because we make all these Simpsons references or like and nobody gets them. Nobody gets them anymore. So I can't think. I don't know specifically if I learned stuff, but probably. I mean, I didn't start reading books really until I was like 14, and so everything that I acquired before then was from.
Hey, what was
television.
school like? I mean, what was English? I always want to ask you this, and just remember this. So, what's like English in school?
Okay. Well, so
what does it look like? And I mean, start from the first grade or whatever.
Okay. So the first time you go to public school is called kindergarten, right? Okay. And that's when I was a kid, it was half day, right? So you'd either go in the morning.
But this is like five.
Yeah, 5 to 6. I mean, I was 6 when I went because I was developmentally stunted and short. I was dyslexic. They didn't know yet, but and there you learn like ABCs and basic reading, like basic words, right? And then
a lot of pictures, a lot of
pictures. And then in first grade you learn
this is elementary school.
Elementary school, right? In first grade you learn writing. Like how to do letters and stuff and spelling. We'd have a weekly spelling test.
That's a big deal over there, spelling, right?
Yeah, because
spelling bee
it doesn't make any sense. That's why. Like, spelling in Croatian is just saying a word slowly, right? Spelling in English, it's so,
math.
Yeah, it's so nonsensical, like, let's see, red, R-E-D, bed, B-E-D, dead, D-E-A-D.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Bead? Huh? Like, so yeah, and
bear can be 3 things.
Yeah, right. And we would have weekly spelling tests that I would
really.
Yeah. And we'd get a list of words every week, and we'd have to learn how to spell them, like 20 words.
Why?
I don't know. I mean,
why is spelling so important? I mean, this way, like
because that's the only way you learn. Because it's you just have to learn it by memorization and familiarity. Because it doesn't make any sense, And I'm still a horrible speller when I'm writing things out. Word, spell check is what saved me. And then
no, I understand that. That's written spelling.
Yeah,
I just don't understand why the phonetic thing is important.
No, I mean this would be written spelling.
I was written.
Yeah,
okay.
We don't really have oral exams in America. But I would study, and my dad would give me the test on Thursday, and I'd do it perfectly. And then I'd take the test on Friday, and I would fail.
But wait, how would you spell in writing? They would the teacher would say the word like bear, and you would spell it on.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a dictation,
right? But and that's when they kind of started realizing, hey, maybe something's wrong with him because
you were dyslexic.
Yeah,
you were,
or still am. I mean, I don't know how it works, but yeah.
How do you notice it?
Well, I mean, the way they noticed it was because I was smart, but my schoolwork wasn't matching with my obvious brilliance. And
did it have like a speech therapist that?
There was a speech, but I didn't do that. I mean, they took me in so one day they came and got me. Like right?
People in suits.
Yeah, but I mean, a lady in a suit, and they took me to a room that I thought was just a closet, but turned out it was like a small classroom. And I took a test, and
did they tell you why?
No, and I remember when I had to do something, and she kept having me try to do it again and again, and I couldn't do it. And I remember like seeing her, like that was like the confirmation. Right?
How old were you?
8 or 9, and then they stuck me in the learning disability class. Right,
but that's they don't do it today. Right?
No. Now they have like you would stay with your group, but this was awful. So I was already short. Dyslexic, like left-handed, physically inept, with lots of opinions, right? So I was not like, I was very easy school bully fodder, right?
Girlfriend?
No girlfriends, but desperately wanted one, right? Even though I was 9 and didn't know what that meant. And so the worst thing was that at my school, the learning disability class was like a separate building, like set off from the rest of the school. And you only went in there if you were learning disabled, right? So it was the retard class.
But I mean, is it like everybody with any kind of disability?
I mean, no, I mean, certain levels, right? But anyways, I qualified to be in the learning disabled class. And, but we'd all gather in front of the school before the bell rang. And then the bell would ring and everybody would go to their classroom, and I would try to like sneak to the learning disability class because I didn't want everybody to know that I was a retard, right? And it was just awful. And the guys in there, like I was only in that class 2 hours a day, and the other students were in there for most of the day except for the electives.
What was different in this class?
Oh, we just went really slow, and even then I was like, wait. Like they're like, well, this will help you catch up. I'm like, by going slower, that doesn't make any sense. And it was okay. I mean, I guess I needed it, but I was in there for 2 years, and but the kids there were like, one of the kids, Willie. I swear to God, that guy shaved in 5th grade. He was huge.
He was 30.
Yeah, I mean, he was massive, and they all came from like pretty rough homes and stuff, I didn't. I mean, my parents were divorced, but like they were happily remarried, and this guy'd be like, oh, well, my mom's boyfriend. And I was like, moms can't have boyfriends. But anyways, because he was like the school bully, but I was good with him. So I was protected after that.
You had your back.
Yeah.
He has your back. So spelling, what else? What was school like? I mean, was it a lot of reading? And what about later in middle school?
Yeah, so then once you get into like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, we had a class called communication skills. And this
really?
And this was 2 hours a day. And it was grammar and reading, basically. And we would have giant, like, how in Croatia you have lectira, right? We had like these giant books of like short stories that then had like all these questions in it, so to see if you could understand.
Like a didactic kind of.
Yeah, I guess. Like, and we would read those, and then we'd have to answer the questions.
But wait, there was a subject called English, and then
no, a subject called communication skills,
and there wasn't like anything else.
No.
English.
You don't get English until middle school.
Middle school. Okay, so what happens in middle school?
Same thing. It's only an hour a day, and it's stories and grammar.
What's school like? Is it 45? 1 hour?
I think it was
Lessons?
50 minutes.
Is there a bell? Is there a bell?
Yeah, there's always a bell. Yeah, it's 50 minutes each, I think.
And everybody sits alone, right? There's no...
Yeah, no benches. No, it's all desks.
That's...
individualism.
Yeah, individualism.
So, I mean, middle school also just sucks. It's the worst thing about education in America.
How much time do you devote to like grammar and syntax and...
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I was dyslexic, so like whenever this stuff came up, I just didn't care, right? I was just like, I just wanted to draw pictures, and like I it's funny as a guy who now teaches and has a PhD. I mean, I was a horrible student. I mean, I wasn't like D's and F's. I was like C's and B's, a couple A's. But like the idea that I was supposed to learn something at school didn't occur to me until college.
A quick digression here. We see a lot of these videos on YouTube that, make fun of Americans and lack of understanding of geography.
Yeah.
I spoke to someone about this the other day. Their higher education, your higher education is the best in the world. And yet in like elementary, high school, we don't know what it's like. Are the criteria lower? Do you have to do less to get an A compared to a gymnasia here? You have a daughter now. You can compare the school systems. What have you noticed?
Oh, well, I've noticed a lot. One, I can't believe the level of mathematics and science she's doing in 7th grade.
Much more advanced.
Yeah, much more advanced than what we did. Now, granted, I'm from Oklahoma, and like Oklahoma public schools aren't the best. So maybe if you're from California or New York or Washington State, you have better schools. Okay.
Is it a quantity or the detail, the depth of how much our kids do compared to yours?
I think it's the rigor, right? So there's more expected of Croatian kids to get a higher grade. Right, than in America, and
so
also
criteria is higher.
Yeah, but also there's different teaching philosophy, right? So the American system is based on the John Dewey philosophy of
decimal system.
No, not different Dewey. I think it's a different Dewey. I looked that up once. I'm pretty sure it's a different Dewey.
Okay.
Anyways, and that's the teacher is a facilitator, right? So the teacher's role is to help you find what interests you in this text, and then get to okay. But
which is not bad.
But this explains why our higher education system is good,
right?
Yeah, because
that sounds like higher education,
right? Because for those who want to be facilitated, right? Those who have a spark of intelligence and interest, it can be very freeing and liberating, right? To the kids who don't care, then they're just okay, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? So you can finish an American school and be dumb, right? And know nothing. Or you can finish and know how to think, right? So whereas in Croatia, they're gonna make like
there's the boot.
Yeah, you have to. You can graduate a Croatian school and be a complete moron, but you're gonna know basic stuff.
Yeah.
You can't. You don't know what to do with that basic stuff. You don't know how to put it into any kind of practice, but you know it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think in America we're like, no, it's like sink or swim. It's like capitalism.
So it's
like,
more fascist here.
Yeah, basically. It's like
this is connected to freedom, right? Free individualism and freedom.
I think so. I mean, I think that's kind of like the idea. And also, there's a huge attack in America on education. Like we don't. The society doesn't respect smart people anymore. And we don't respect teachers, and
we've never. I guess I don't know. Like, what was it like in the 80s, 90s?
Well, that's when it started. But I know. I mean, my grandfather was a principal, right? And I know he felt respected.
So it's like here.
My uncle's a principal, and he completely felt disrespected. They're a generation apart. So because it used to be people understood that education was the main way to experience some kind of social mobility, right? And now people don't think that, and or they don't want to encourage that. So,
and they're not wrong because they see it around themselves that education is not key to success.
Yeah. I mean, it still helps, but definitely.
So the criteria seems to be lower, and you're not expected to. What did you mean when you say you can finish school dumb? Can you? So, like, if you had all D's, what would that mean? Like, can you describe this person at the end of school?
Well, I think it would be hard to get all D's.
Really?
Yeah, you got to work hard to get all D's in school.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's changed a lot. So my parents are educators, right? And my dad recently, he retired from education, and he said that the biggest problem now is they treat students like they're customers. And so, like, you can even, like, not do any homework the whole semester and, like, turn it all in at the last minute, and the teacher's still going to grade it. Like, they don't fail kids anymore.
Customer's always right.
Yeah. And so they've taken, like, the model of, like, oh, we're going to, customer's always right. We don't want to inconvenience you. And that is.
And this is public school as well.
Yeah, this is public school. And it's also because, like, why deal with the drama, right? Just pass the kids and move them on, right? They have no future. Who cares?
So you remember your class, like, average? What was the average grade? I mean, was it like C, or was it?
No, probably B. I mean, like I said, like, so in high school, I mean, I wasn't a total loser academically, but I didn't try very hard, and I had A's and B's mostly.
I would so like to compare, like, the tests for the same thing that we do here, and then see, like.
Well, we don't have the ispitivanje, like the
oral examination.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Okay.
We don't have the teacher can just ask you a question, and if you don't know the answer, you get a bad mark. We don't have that. So there's much less accountability.
But the tests are tests, right? Written tests.
I don't know. I mean, I can't compare them because
you don't have any old tests back home.
No, but I can't imagine that that I would imagine that the Croatian tests are much more difficult.
Were they more like ABC, multiple choice?
Yeah, definitely multiple choice. I honestly I can't even remember any of them. But, like, with my daughter, I help her study, and the stuff that she's doing and what it takes for her to get a 5, is it looks much more demanding than my 7th grade class.
Ultimately, that's a good thing.
It's good because she's smart. If she was, had trouble or a learning disability, I'd be really worried about her future. As it is, she's already stressed out because she, needs all 5s to go to a top gymnasia.
Yeah.
And so that's, and it's kind of ridiculous because she's, I mean, obviously I'm proud of her. Like, in her chemistry class and physics class, she's getting 100% or more on the exams because of the extra credit questions. But then if she gets a 4 in Glasbeny, which, they
sing, right? They sing.
No, they don't even sing. They just learn what the instruments sound like. It's completely not interesting to her, and I understand why. And so I think it's kind of silly that there's this demand on perfection when that perfection is meaningless. Like, it doesn't, like, who cares? So you're telling me that because you didn't get a 5 in music or in gym, dumb. You can't go to the science high school?
Yeah.
Like, what lots of scientists aren't good at gym class.
That's why, I mean, with the Matura, and we can talk about SATs as well, I just don't, when we were 18, we did the entrance exams. Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
Prijemni. And then you had a chance on that day to show what you can do in that field you're interested in. And it was more, for me, that was more like, fuck high school. Let me show you what I can do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But now it's all just kind of one big exam. So let me ask you about SATs. Can you explain to the listeners what this is?
Yeah, so there's the ACT and the SAT. Right? I actually, in Oklahoma, it's less SAT, it's more ACT. And it's just a standardized test.
It's like Matura, is it?
No, I mean, yeah, a little bit. It's
is it important to get into college based on that?
Well, now they've changed it.
They changed it?
Yeah, so a lot of colleges don't even accept the test scores anymore.
What did they do? Entrance exams?
No, just application and essay grades. Because there's been a lot of studies showing that standardized testing is very biased and problematic. I mean, like again, for me, my standardized test scores were horrible. I did really badly, and I wouldn't say.
What do these tests look like? Is this like reading comprehension, listening comprehension?
Yeah, not listening, reading and math, basically. So like reading comprehension, logic type of stuff. Geometry, algebra, basic things. And you go on a Saturday. And it's timed, but you take it you take the ACT I guess I took it when I was a junior in high school.
Wait, isn't it at the end of high school?
No. It's in the middle of high school because you have to apply to college. The applications for college are due in, February. Mm-hmm. What college you're going to by the time you graduate high school. Mm-hmm. It's not like here where you
last year
pick the faculty
7
in
months
August.
before that.
Yeah, no, it's when I was in, my girlfriend in high school, she was accepted to her university in December. She got early admittance because.
So SATs didn't affect that.
No, she took the SATs,
but after the acceptance.
No, when she was a junior, so in 11th grade, so third year of high school, but then she applied her fourth year of high school in the fall. But because she was going to this school in New Orleans, and I was like, "Oh, I love you. I don't want to." So then I was like, "Well, okay, I'll do this too." Now I'd already graduated. I was at community college, right? And because of her, that motivated me to do really well and get my act together. And so then I went to the school next to that school.
Nice.
Yes.
Romantic.
Yes.
What about high school English? Does it, focus more on literature?
Yeah. There's more of a literature focus and more of self-expression and essays and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's high school.
What were you reading?
Oh, again, we have a giant book, right? And then we do supplemental reading too. So I think in ninth grade we did myths and classical stuff, and then always Shakespeare.
Really?
Yeah. And then in 10th grade, it was American literature. But it was, it's
the anthology, North.
Yeah.
Anthology.
It starts, with Natty Bumppo and James Fenimore Cooper and goes all the way to Mark Twain and Hemingway, right? Eventually. And I read Catcher in the Rye for that class.
And what was class discussion like?
In 10th grade, all I remember is I just fell asleep all the time. And one time I fell asleep on that big book, right? And I drooled so much that when
How can that happen? The teacher can see
She
it.
doesn't care.
They don't care.
This teacher, God bless her heart, but she was so boring. And she looked like a poodle, right? And she would just sit there and talk about Natty Bumppo, right? James Fenimore Cooper wrote The Last of the Mohicans, right? Which is an okay book. It's kind of stupid, but it's okay. But do they include that? No. They include the death of Natty Bumppo from the Leatherstocking Tales, which is called The Prairie, and it's just a segment. It's not the whole book, right? And it's the most boring thing.
Do you read the book in class?
Not the book. We read we read it.
Do you read material in class?
No, we read it at home, and then and then she would tell us about it, and she was really into it, but not in a way that was engaging to my 16-year-old.
Do you remember anything from any class discussion in English literature?
I just remember her talking about the Transcendentalist and Ralph Waldo Emerson and, a guy named Longfellow, which we thought was funny because we would make jokes about his penis. But what I remember most is I fell asleep and I drooled so much that then when something shot me awake, the page came out stuck to my mouth, right? And
like a sitcom.
Yeah, and then in 11th grade, one teacher quit and we got another teacher. And I'm so embarrassed about this. This was one of the worst things ever. This woman was black and from New York, and she just wasn't ready for a class of white Oklahoma kids.
Young?
We weren't ready for her. No, she wasn't young, but she was very mean. And I wasn't, but other kids were just awful to her. But I think she expected more from us than we were ready to give because we were from Oklahoma. But in that one, there was a lot of Shakespeare. We did Hamlet and Macbeth. And I guess that was British literature because we did Yeats, some other stuff. And then in 12th grade, we did more world stuff. And 12th grade I enjoyed more because we actually got to read books. We read Les Miserables and Siddhartha and like a bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you don't remember any class discussions?
No.
Just falling asleep and drooling?
Yeah, I mean,
What happened if you didn't read the book or the short story at home? Could you come to class?
Yeah, sure. What, are they going to like not?
No, but I mean, if it happens here, even in college, you had to like read it or you would feel uncomfortable. You couldn't participate. And could you like just say to the teacher, I'm sorry, I didn't read it? Or
well, the teacher didn't care. I fell asleep. Like,
you really advertise Oklahoma schools.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, when people want to complain about Croatian education, I'm like, well,
And how much did you have to read? Like I think they still at school have one book per month or something.
Yeah, no, nothing like that.
No?
Nothing like that. I mean, and that was kind of the annoying thing is that by that time, I was a big reader. I read books on my own all the time, but kids in class would be like, wait, you read when you don't have to?
Yeah, that's
and I
here
was
as
like,
well.
yeah. And so, I was reading Henry Miller and Charles Dickens and all kinds of like other literature, plus Star Wars novels and like Anne Rice vampire.
But how often did you have to do so for school?
I can only remember having to do like 2 books a year.
2 books a year?
Yeah.
But what did you do for the rest of the time?
We read the
anthology.
Yeah, the anthology, and that we had to read, and then we'd have to like do write like an essay or like draw a picture one time, right?
What's your visual representation of this?
I honestly don't, and it's ironic, a little bit funny because I majored in English in college, right? Mm-hmm. I can barely remember English class in high school. I remember we would write short stories sometimes. In 9th grade, I wrote a short story about a vampire. That was cool. Mm-hmm. We read Romeo and Juliet in 9th grade. But I was also in the dumb class, right? So there was a more advanced class, right, of like the smart kids. And I was in the dumb class because of my test scores and my dyslexia. Uh-huh. So maybe in the smart class, they read a bunch of stuff. I mean, I know that now that I think about it, because my girlfriend, she read a lot of stuff for class and was like,
Was it just essays or was there a test?
Yeah, there'd be a test like reading comprehend, just factual stuff about the story, like, what did Natty Bumppo do? And
so just checking if you read.
Yeah, So yeah, we had foreign languages.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So there's this belief that Americans can't speak any other language, but and you see it in movies that they have a lot of French in schools. Yeah. Were there in your school? Was there a foreign language subject 1, 2?
You could choose. So like
electives.
Yeah. So and starting in middle school. In 6th grade, every 9 weeks we switched foreign language. It was like a sampler, like a buffet of languages. So we did German, French, Spanish, and Japanese.
Every 9 weeks
for 1 year, right? And then 2 languages a semester to sort of see which one we liked, and
you had to do it.
Yeah. No, you didn't have to. You could do something else if you were a real dum-dum. And then in 7th grade we would pick one, and so I chose Spanish. So I did Spanish in 7th and 8th grade.
What did that look like? Those 9 weeks. Is it a goal of that to get you like, there is this language and this is how it works? Or was it like, let's teach you how to, communicate the basics?
A little bit of both. Mm-hmm. I mean, in Spanish, you'd learn me llamo es Cody.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Yeah. Yes.
Remember Brendan Fraser? Bedazzled?
Yo soy Neshito,
Yeah.
And then, Japanese, we'd learn the Japanese alphabet. Yeah. Well, this was in the 80s. We were scared of the Japanese. We'd better learn their language.
And the Germans.
Yeah. And then, French, I think the final project we did there is we got to draw a house, and then we had to name all the rooms and identify everything in it with French.
Wait, hold on. So there's more foreign language than here in schools.
Yeah, sure. But then you picked one. So you could pick Japanese for the next 2 years, or French or Spanish or German.
2 years.
Yeah, so 7th and 8th grade. So I picked Spanish and did Spanish 7th and 8th grade. But our Spanish teacher was the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts. We had a different teacher every semester, right? And so it was all chaotic, right? For whatever, I don't know why, but we always kept losing Spanish teachers. And then in ninth grade, I took Spanish, but then my parents moved. And in order for me to stay at the school I was at, because it's by like districts, right?
Okay.
We moved out of the district. I had to.
You can go to another district school?
Not without a good reason. And so my reason was I was going to take Latin. And so then I did 3 years of Latin.
3 years of Latin.
Yeah.
So you said this starts in middle school. How old are you when foreign languages start?
12, 11, 12.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because English here it used to be 11. You started at 11, fourth grade. But then they decided, they realized that it's a good idea to have it in preschool even. Mm-hmm. So now it starts at grade 1, even the second language as well.
Yeah.
Do you think this would be a good idea in the States as well?
Yeah, but the reality is that if you're Croatian, it's more important for you to learn foreign languages than if you're American.
Why?
Because in America, everybody speaks English, and the world speaks English, and we're speaking English right now in Croatia.
So when people finish high school, here we have this kind of like, everybody speaks English, but the second language you're not so exposed to, be it Italian or German. People will commonly say, yes, I learned German for 4 years, but I cannot say a word or I cannot have a conversation. Is it the same kind of thing in the States with languages other than English?
I guess so. I think Croatians are just modest when they say that. In America, it's definitely more the case because like we were talking about earlier, you don't have, with the exception of Spanish, you don't have organic exposure to it.
Yeah, that's true. Exposure is really, really important.
Yeah, and like with Spanish, most places in the U.S., you will find Spanish-speaking people, and you'll hear Spanish regularly. So you can, do it that way.
So Spanish would be like if Americans can say that they can speak another language, it should be Spanish, right?
Yeah,
mostly.
Yeah,
this is throughout the States, right?
Yeah, I would say.
Do you think it's French closer to the border, Canada?
Not so much. Because the Quebecois, they live in Montreal has. It was weird because I studied French in college and lived in Montreal, and our idea of people
speak French.
I did a little bit, but our idea of French-speaking people are sophisticated. And then you go up to Canada, and it's there's a guy in sweatpants and a mullet being like, "Je te you're like,
yeah, that is.
You are white trash, I didn't know there was French white trash.
Well, it's impressive. I hear Justin Trudeau, when they have a conference or something, it's English, and then all of a sudden it's French, and it sounds really good.
Yeah,
to have this kind of bilingual thing.
Yeah, that's to me that's great. But I would say America is more like that with Spanish and English, and becoming that way.
Yeah, okay.
Like France, like Quebec or Canada is with French. And
have they changed anything since you were in school?
Oh, probably.
Do you know?
I don't know. I think they start foreign languages younger now.
Yeah.
Right. I think so. And again, I don't know anybody who goes to Oklahoma public schools because my siblings who have kids moved and now they go to better schools and stuff.
Well, you said you majored in English in college. What here when you say I go to college, what do you study? And then you say I study electrical engineering or I study German. What did you study?
So in American colleges, it's unlike here because the faculties are not as isolated, so you have the whole campus. Mm-hmm. So you have to do 60 hours of your major, right? And then another 60 of...
So your major is what you are actually...
Yeah. So the major is that's what my degree is in, and that's my course. So I had to take 60 hours of English language or writing classes.
Can you have 2 majors?
Yeah, you can have 2 majors. 3 would be a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have I think to graduate you have to maybe it's 70 hours. I don't exactly remember, but to graduate you have to have 120 hours. So then all the other stuff, because I went to a Jesuit university, they're big on
a what?
Jesuit.
What does that mean? Okay.
The Catholics, the soldiers of God.
Soldiers of God. Okay.
So yeah, my university was Jesuit, even though I'm not Catholic. I have some weird thing for the Catholics because, I went to a Catholic university.
But they are strong with universities.
Yeah, but I've only lived in outside of my hometown. I've only lived in Catholic-dominated cities, with the exception of Istanbul, right? Because it's like Montreal.
And you came to Croatia, which is largely Catholic.
So it's some weird thing.
It's God's way of...
So, but with the Jesuit education, one of the things I like about it is they emphasize philosophy and religion classes and things like that. So I had to, my first year I took short modern fiction, introduction to philosophy, world religions, and some history of 100 Years' War, right?
So to be completely unemployable.
Yeah. So, those were the things. And, so it took you'd have because it was a smaller school, we only had
So you majored in what? English and?
English and writing. Mm-hmm. So we only had 3,000 students, right?
So, when you study here, when you say I majored in English, people assume that you're either a teacher or maybe translator. How does it work over there? What do you do with an English major at the end?
Move abroad and teach it. Actually, English is really good for you
apply it elsewhere.
Yeah, for pre-med, it's good. For law, it can be good because you're getting text and you're examining them and you're understanding language, in ways that you're not going to get.
But it's more technical, like proofreading and like that, or
what, for the major?
Yeah.
No, it's just reading books and a bunch of short stories.
No, when you start working.
Well, it depends on what you do. In America, nobody really cares what you studied. It's, when you get unless it's some very technical
medicine
field. Yeah. Well, even medicine, you have to do graduate school, right? So you can, it was funny. There was this girl I went to school with, and she and her boyfriend were English majors, and they were like, we're going to become doctors, and we're going to do pre-med. We're going to go to med school after we finish college, and we're going to get married, and we're going to have kids.
What does pre-med mean?
Well, pre-med is you do so they would take English classes plus more science classes, right? So where I'm philosophy, they're English and biology and chemistry.
Okay.
Right. And so then they can go to medical school. Mm-hmm. And then in medical school, they learn to be a doctor. So our medical school and law are post-diplomski in America.
Okay.
You can't do it in undergrad.
Okay.
And anyways,
that's so interesting.
They're we're going to get married and have kids and be doctors. And I was like, yeah, that's cute. No way that's going to all happen. And it did. They're both doctors.
They're both doctors.
Yeah, one's a cardiac surgeon and the other's a pediatrician.
Nice.
So yeah, good for them. And they have 2 kids.
I'm always intrigued by this, kind of different education system. But for example, majoring in English, how many years is that?
For me, it was 3 because I did 1 year at the community college.
Is that the bachelor's then?
Or bachelor's. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to master's? What is this thing with bachelor's, master's? Here, bachelor's, master's, bachelor's doesn't really mean anything. You can't really get a job with that. It's just we have adopted this Bologna strategy, and it's divided into just for mobility, I guess. But, to have a bachelor's degree here is pretty useless.
Yeah, because you guys, it's very easy to get a master's. Right. That's what's happened is, 3 plus 2. Okay.
Yeah. But bachelor's degree in the States actually means something. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's, bachelor's degree is what you have to enter into most fields, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a degree in that thing. My sister, she was doing public relations for Congress, right? For members of Congress. Mm-hmm. Her degrees were in history and drama. She did a double major, right? So, not political science, not law, but she was able to get
sacrilege here. Yeah. That would be sacrilege.
Yeah, well, look, America...
Index would write about that.
America is a big market that needs workers, and so it's much more about your...
But you prove yourself, right? You can, if you can demonstrate that you can do this job, then you can have this job.
Yeah, exactly. That's, and demonstrating that you can do stuff in college is basically demonstrating to your future employer that you're not a dum-dum.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why to us also grades matter. Mm-hmm. Here, my students don't care about grades. They're like, wait, I can just get a 2 if I do this. And I'm
that's what we do.
And I'm like,
that's what we did 1 year.
I'm like, but don't you care about the future? Right. Don't you want good grades so you can go to grad school or, you know.
So the transcripts of grades is important for college.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you graduate with honors, you know, that's saying something.
I mean, we have a diploma supplement now. I mean, after college, you can, you know, future employer can ask to get that, but that's college, and I don't think anybody cares.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, it cares for your graduate school too. So, you know, so like I graduated with my degree in English, went and lived in Montreal, and then moved back home and worked at a bookstore and then punched somebody in the face and had to paint houses, which is what you do as an English major. And then decided I wanted to be an English teacher. So I tried to get certified.
And what do you have to do to be an English teacher?
Right, so if you go to like a state school, you can do like a English major and then teacher track.
What's a teacher track? Is it like teacher training?
Yeah, like
master's in
education. Not master's, just like
ED?
emphasis education, so you can then like go out and be a teacher, right? For me,
Did you do that?
No, because I went to a smaller school, right? The state would have required me to like take some additional classes, which was really stupid. And so, anyways.
Is that like, you know, psychology or something like that?
No.
Methodology of teaching?
There's some stuff like that. But, you know, so basically what happened is they were like, well, why don't you just do a master's in education? And I was like, okay. And so I signed up for
That's what we have.
So I signed up for a master's in education, and then I was like, I don't want to be a principal. And so I went to the political science department and was like, hey, can I do a master's in political science? And they were like, sure. And so that's how I...
So you never taught back then?
I taught political science, but no, I didn't teach.
English.
I didn't teach English.
What we have here is study languages, and then the master's is master's in education. It's called teacher training, and basically what you focus on is psychology, you know, pedagogia.
Yeah, I mean, I did like 2 education classes just for kicks, and yeah, we had like it was about like, you know, stuff like that, like multiculturalism in education. You know.
But if you wanted to be a state school teacher,
Yeah.
what would you have to do?
Well, now, because we have a Republican governor who hates education, you actually don't have to do anything. You can just like we have a huge teacher shortage, and so they'll just basically let
That's the
let
economy.
anybody be a teacher.
But what would be like what used to be the
I don't know, because you have to get certified, and certified means you have to take certain number of classes and like some exams.
I mean, are
The
they
state certifies you.
States?
Yeah, yeah, state certification. And then you can like enhance that certification by doing like extra stuff, so you get kind of like more pay, or you're more qualified for more positions or something.
How much does a teacher make?
In Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Barely anything. I think like, I don't know, $40,000 a year.
$40,000 a year,
Which is nothing.
Jesus.
That's gross. That's brutto.
Yeah, but I mean, so there's a teacher shortage, of course.
Yeah.
This like here, I mean, it's much more popular to enroll in social sciences. It's very popular to study, and then there's a shortage of, you know, minors and doctors. Okay, doctors are doing okay, but my friend works at the Faculty of Mining, and he says 1 year we enrolled 40 students, the next year 10, and then they lowered the criteria from Matura A in math to Matura B in math, and then they fill their quota.
I didn't even know there was a Faculty of Mining.
Mining, yeah. And it's interesting because if you can finish that college, get a job immediately.
Yeah, but then you have to work in a mine.
No, you don't. And that's actually, you can work in a mine, and that's good money.
Yeah, I bet, but you're working in a mine.
Well, mines aren't what they used to be.
You know, I mean, I understand. Like, if you would, mining is probably, very technical, difficult.
Yeah,
stuff.
But they get to blow stuff up.
Yeah, well, that's true. And they always get to go on strike because it's always the miners' strike. So,
this is the States. We don't have mines here.
So, well, you used to.
Yeah, you have mine towns. You have mining.
Yeah, but there was in Yugoslavia there were miner strikes all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
So be a miner and go on strike.
But now it's sophisticated. I mean, you work on an oil rig, you work in an office, and whatever. Okay, so we spoke about language. It's so interesting. We never spoke about this.
What?
The whole thing we spoke about today. We never actually...
With education?
Yeah, we never That's good to learn from you. I
Well, you
thought
know.
we were going to have fun, but it's about learning.
I mean, but it's funny because I learn, you know, it's really been this year where my daughter's like education has just jumped. Like, you
What
know,
grade is she in?
She's in 7th, and she's like, "Oh, we're doing vectors." I'm like, "You're doing vectors?"
Yeah,
like,
just-
you know, we did. I helped her study for physics, and I kept doing it wrong, and so she would like have to explain it to me, and that's I think what really helped her learn it. You know, like we were supposed to like.
Oh, nice, good.
Yeah, there was a
that,
problem.
that was your plan all along.
Yeah, I told her that. Like, you know, because there was like a thing where we had to build a wall, but because I didn't square it, I just built an L, right? It like, you know, she was like, no, that's not a wall. I was like, oh, it's an L. Yeah, okay. And then she's like, no, Daddy, it's like this. You know, so
Interesting.
yeah. And with her, like, I really want her to. I told her, I said, you have to do a hard science for your bachelor's.
Really?
Yeah. Like you can do it social science.
force your kids
social science for masters.
Just tell her she can do whatever she wants. She can become whatever she wants.
No. As someone who did humanities and then social sciences, right? I'm very lucky.
Oh, the humanities.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have the job and the life that I have, and you know, I don't know if the luck's going to hold for her. So you know, and she's inclined to
Is she inclined to math?
Math and science. She likes biology and chemistry.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's where the money is. Not in English.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're doing okay.
We're doing okay. Yeah, okay is the key word here.
Well, I mean, I don't think in Croatia there's not money in anything. You know, like.
There isn't crime.
Well, that's true. But then you have to, like, you know, be ethically unsound and join padeži. No, I don't know. I'm just. You know.
No, you're right. You write books. It's not a question. Are you writing anything?
Yeah.
Working on anything?
Working on a couple things. Too many things, actually. First thing is I'm working on a TV show, right? To try to turn my
Explain what Propuk is.
try to turn my life into a sitcom. This is my goal.
So people still find you attractive because or appealing because you are Hrvatski Zet, right?
Yeah, you know, and I think I'm a funny guy, right? You know, I can make astute
Some
observations.
people would say that.
Yeah, some would. So I'm working on that, and we're getting close. We're going to probably do a pilot in a few months, hopefully.
What's it going to be called?
I don't know. The episode's about party breaking, so it's me stuck at a birthday party
Are you breaking the fourth wall?
for little kids. Yeah. There's whole.
It's in English?
Yeah. Well, English and Croatian, you know, and like, you know,
So it's a sitcom.
yeah. I mean, basically it's like Curb Your Enthusiasm, but with less assholery.
Not Seinfeld?
It's like Seinfeld, but also a little bit more like Curb. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So that's happening. And then I'm working on a science fiction book that's for younger kids, like 12 and up. And then I'm also...
Is that young adult or is that something pre-young adult?
That's middle grade.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, so there's middle grade and there's young adult. And young adult is
John Green, Fault in Our Stars, and
stuff like you know, Hunger Games
Hunger
would be
Games.
young adult. Middle grade is a little bit more. It's not about content; it's about language and how it's written. So so this is more middle grade.
And your daughter is helping you with the book.
Yeah, she's reading the draft of it right now. And
She's the beta reader.
telling me what's wrong with it and what she likes about it, and then I have to do a big rewrite on that, and that's going to take a lot of time. And then I've also started working on a third book about Croatia,
So the first book is what? Chasing the Croatian Girl?
chasing a Croatian
Chasing
girl,
the
yeah.
Croatian Girl. And the second one is Croatia Strikes Back.
Yes,
And the third one is about what?
doesn't have a title.
What was it going to be about?
I don't know. It's about, you know, just what's happened in my life. Mostly
You're writing about how you are Croatia's Zagreb's go-to Yank, so RTL and the TV, everybody calls you and
you know, at this point, it's a lot about what we talked about, education, right? And healthcare, right? Because as I've gotten older, I've had to use the healthcare more, and my wife was sick a few years ago, so she had to use it. So it's like about that, and then I'm hoping that if the sitcom happens, then it can end up being about making that and how that all went.
Are you going to mention the podcast? in the
Sure.
book? Are you writing it now?
I mean, I'm writing parts of it, you know, bits and pieces and stuff. I mean, I always have to write. So there's always a compulsion there. And
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever write just to write, not as to be for that to be a part of something?
I mean, sometimes, but usually has some kind of, there's some idea behind it. It's not like just poetry, but like
Have you ever written poetry?
Yes, it's awful.
Really?
Yeah, like when I was in English, when I was doing English, I had to write poems, and like they were just awful. I knew they were awful.
Did you have a creative writing course?
Yeah, bunch. Like I'd say 4.
Really?
Yeah. And that's like one of them is you write something and then you sit in a group and they just tell you why it sucks.
Well, I mean, what else?
Yeah. So
This is good.
You just have to get over
this is contrived.
Yeah,
Nobody would believe this.
The embarrassment and stuff.
We did when I was in my student exchange in Graz. We had that was interesting. This guy Nick Scott he studied at Oxford. A young guy. He studied at Oxford. He studied modern languages. And then we asked him, "What is this? What is modern languages?"
Yeah,
he says it's German. And that's why he was in Austria. But he wasn't doing German. He was doing English. Proofreading for other professors, and he had this creative writing course. It was fun. It was really fun. We had to write short stories throughout the semester. So one day it was like suspense. And then we would read suspenseful stories and what builds suspense. And he would give us like Dan Brown, look at how he builds suspense. And then stream of consciousness. And then historical fiction. And it was a lot of fun. I did a story called Headlines, which is an idea that I stole off some old TV show. Nobody got the reference. It was about a guy who gets tomorrow's newspapers on his front door in his.
Is it like a Twilight Zone?
No, it was actually a show, and I couldn't find it. It's not called Headlines, so I can't find it. And he would get like newspapers, and then he was like an ex-cop or something, and he would go around.
I vaguely know.
Yeah.
I think it was something about like addition was in the title.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez, we'll find it.
Okay, yeah.
And then I wrote a story about that. Like he's an ex-cop. Nobody sees these newspapers, right? Nobody can see it, like whatever. And he would go around and prevent the accidents that happened that day. And then one day he would get the paper and he saw his wife getting killed, and ex-wife. And then he's trying to prevent that.
Or he was like, went back inside, had another cup of coffee.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun, and Graz also had like
that sounds more productive than my creative writing classes, because mine were like, the professors were kind of like hippy dippy, so like we didn't have like structure. It was supposed to be literature always, right? So like it wasn't.
But you would write.
Yeah, we'd write, but like I was trying to be literary, and it would have been much more fun if it'd been like write a suspenseful story.
Oh really? Yeah. This was fun. Yeah. So Graz had like a magazine. They had for students where they could publish stories like this.
Yeah, we had one of those too.
Yeah. And I wrote a poem as well. See, you and I are quite alike.
Yeah.
I wrote a poem and I wrote this story, and I was really proud of this story. And the professor, Nick Scott, even said, you should send this to the magazine. And I sent a poem, which I didn't quite like, and then the story, and they published the poem and not the story.
Boo.
I never got the magazine.
Really?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Tragedy, yeah.
Yeah, I was just a pretentious dick in college. And, it was always like, it just has to be literature, and I just want to read James Joyce, and blah, blah, blah. And then when I got out of college, then I started reading fun stuff. And that's when...
And you were reading Dickens when you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was a teenager. That was basically to impress the ladies.
Really? That was the
well,
way to impress the ladies?
all the girls that I was interested in were smart, and I realized I had to up my game. And it wasn't like to impress them, but it was like to at least...
Did it work?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. One of them, who was very smart, is now a famous nun.
What does this even mean? A famous nun?
She's a famous nun.
What does that mean?
She has a social media following. She had an article written about her in the New York Times last year.
So wait, you were dating a future nun? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And I on behalf of the church, I take full responsibility for her decision after the experience of dating me to say, you know what? I am done with men. I'm going to give it all to God, because if it's this, There's got to be something better than that.
You weren't joking when you said you're all about Catholics.
Yeah. Oh, and that was funny too, because she was super Catholic, right? And like her family, her father was so Catholic that he got in like a theological argument with like the diocese or the archbishop, right? And so he was banned from teaching in the city, right? But they also had
I actually like that. Now I'm interested in the argument.
She had like tons of kids. Right, so going to their house, right, was like going to a Dickens novel, right? It's like all these kids, they were poor because he couldn't work because he was disputing. It seemed very Irish too, you know, like he's in a dispute with the archbishop, and you know, so. Yeah.
Let me ask you this before we move on to dad jokes. So Oklahoma, and what if somebody from California, you know, you speak to somebody from California, can you tell that he's from California by the way he speaks?
It depends on, you know, how much code switching is going on.
Which part of the United States is easily recognizable?
Well, the South, definitely. But even the South, like, you know, in New Orleans, where I did my undergraduate, they have a really weird way of speaking. They say "oi" as right? So they won't say
as in what word?
Like how you dern.
Jeez.
Instead of how are you doing, they say how you dern, where you gurn, right? And they also do the weird stuff. They say like, oh, I have to go make the grocery. And you're like, make the grocery? What the heck? Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What? I don't know. And the reason why they say make the groceries is because they're using the French verb faire, which is to do or to make.
Okay.
Right? So it's a hangover from when they spoke French.
Hangover.
or a holdover, you know? And so in New Orleans, they have a very weird, it's like a Southern Brooklyn accent. Right.
I mean, we always like movies, Boston accent.
Yeah.
It's always easily recognizable. Yeah. But you as an American, can you tell more accents than...
Just regionally, not like... It's not like in Croatia where you're like, Splitjanka, right? Or like, oh, this person's from, you know, here. Like, it's not like that, you know, like, you know. Just...
Do people change their accents if they go to another state or if they... Like,
some do, some don't. You know, I had a friend who was like a roommate who in New Orleans, his brother, my roommate didn't have an accent, but his brother had a huge accent. And they're from Tennessee and be like, oh, I like this dog. He's a good dog. Right? He would just talk like that, but his brother didn't. So, you know, I think his brother
Do you think people, you know, purposefully do that to kind of like get rid of the accents to be more, I don't know, sophisticated?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if I spoke like an Okie, right?
Can you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk like an Okie if you want me to. You know?
This is great.
You know, you say, oh, well, you know, probably down there, you know.
So why don't you speak like that?
Well, because then I sound like I'm like a hillbilly.
So you made a decision?
No, I didn't make a decision. It's just, you know, I think it's because my dad's from Pennsylvania, right? And he don't talk like this, you know, but my mom, she does, kind of, you know. She'll say, like, I bet you $1. You probably get that down at the store, you know.
It's like watching a John Wayne movie.
You know, so I don't want to talk like a dang hillbilly Okie, you know.
You should. Students will listen to you
No,
more.
they can't understand what I'm saying when I talk like this. You know, this is sensible. Like my grandpa, he talked like this, and he had like a bunch of little syllables to words that you don't know how they got there, and that's what he talking about.
Can you do a British accent?
No, not really. I mean, I can do like my impression of it. Yeah, like
oh, governor,
charge at you, and then I can do a little bit of Irish, right?
Let's do Irish.
Because when I was in Dublin, you know, they'd say like, pint the matter is, in 1913, very fine boy stood up to the British and gave him what, you know, like, it's very flat, where Scottish is like, kind of like, it's a bit, you know, Irish is flat. They're like, you know, first off, you're very welcome. Tot be known in 1913, like, because they don't say the right? Which is maybe why Croatians go to Ireland, because everyone's saying ta, you know. Yeah, so.
Okay. Let's do dad jokes now.
Okay.
I got this as a gift. Don't touch that.
Are you a dad?
No.
Are you expecting?
No. It's just I have the humor.
All right, yeah. Well.
It's a set of cards. It says dad jokes. Great gags for the family comedian. 100 embarrassing dad jokes. Are you a dad comedian? Do you have dad jokes? Do you do dad jokes?
Yeah, I do dad jokes.
Do they make fun of you?
No, because my daughter and I have a very similar, like, sense of humor. you know. So like she gets my
So your
jokes.
daughter has dad jokes.
She just gets. I mean, you know.
So you know those dad jokes on YouTube where they do like two dads sit across from each other and then they tell dad jokes?
No, I don't.
You never seen that?
No, I never saw that.
It's so fun. We did that once with my friends in Croatian. So the point is you can't laugh. So the person telling the joke can tell it, you know, and laugh,
Okay.
but the other person can't laugh. So if I'm telling a joke, you can't laugh. If you laugh, I get a point.
Okay.
And then you do the same. And if I laugh, you get a point.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna think about the Holocaust.
Can't cheat that way.
Thinking about the Holocaust.
Think about the
and-
nun. Think about your ex.
No, that makes me laugh. I'm thinking about the Holocaust and prostate cancer. Okay.
That's not fair. Okay, I'll start. This is fun, actually, and I love these jokes, and to me they're funny, and to nobody else.
Okay.
What is a snake's favorite subject at school?
History.
Fuck you. Okay. Okay, now it's your turn.
Okay. What did the man say when he was reversing his car?
Let's go back.
This takes me back.
Okay, let me choose. Oh, I love this one. I was crushed by a pile of falling books the other day. I guess I only have my shelf to blame. Nothing? Okay.
What do you give a lemon that needs medical attention?
What?
Lemonade.
Lemonade.
Yeah, lemonade.
If you have 13 apples in one hand and 10 oranges in another, what do you have?
A fruit salad?
Massive hands.
Okay, all right. Okay. Why could the lifeguard not save the hippie?
Why could a lifeguard not say that?
Yeah. Because it was too far out, man. That's awful. That's awful.
No, your delivery was amazing.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, let's see what else. You like milkshakes, right?
Yeah.
How do you make a milkshake?
With milk and ice cream, and you blend it.
How do you make a milkshake?
Shake. Oh, I don't know. Put a cow in an earthquake.
Close.
Okay.
You give it a good scare.
Oh. All right. Okay. Oh God. What is a runner's favorite subject at school?
Runners?
Yeah.
Favorite subject at school? Sport. I don't know.
Geography.
Okay.
I hate the fact that I'm going to remember some of these and use them. How does Reese eat her ice cream?
Reese Witherspoon?
With her spoon. Good job.
This is what we talked about. What is more impressive than a talking parrot?
Your mom?
A spelling bee?
God, okay. All right. What was the most useful invention? Wait, what was a more useful invention than the first telephone?
Probably the second telephone. Really?
Yes, the second telephone.
Oh, I broke the joke. Oh, you wrote poetry, right? This one's for you. How do poets say hello?
I don't know.
Hi, have we metaphor?
Okay, I'm not doing that one.
Yeah, I'm choosing one.
Nope. Let's see. Oh, my daughter loved this one when she was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. So, what did the fast tomato say to the slow tomato?
Ketchup?
Yeah, she loved it when I would do that joke. And she also, there was some point, it was kind of like a dad joke where say reci samobor. They say,
Samobor.
yeah, bor, because samobor. Right, so
What?
like you're supposed to just say samobor.
Okay.
Right. Or she also like this one. Railroad crossing, Watch out for cars. Can you spell that without any R's? THAT.
Crickets in my mind.
Okay, so railroad crossing, watch out for cars.
Okay.
Can you spell that without any R's?
Yeah, THAT.
Yeah, THAT.
Yeah, I wasn't listening first time around.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I like this one. A woman walked into a library and asked if they had any books on paranoia. And the librarian says, "They're right behind you."
Okay. Oh, God.
Okay, one more.
This one's good. What do you call a potato fighting in the Colosseum?
Wait. Gladiator?
Gladiator.
Gladiator.
Yeah.
That's Irish, right? Taters.
Taters. I think, are they taters? I thought they were tubers.
Tubers. Okay, let's do one more each. What do you call an old snowman?
A puddle?
Water.
Oh, yeah.
Snowman's blood. Water.
Okay. Did you hear
This
about...
is the last one.
All right.
This is the last one.
Oh, okay. Hold on. That's a lot of pressure.
Uh-huh. Do you have any jokes of your own? Oh, you did 2 jokes?
Yeah.
That's your daughter jokes.
Okay, here we go. Did you hear about the man who misspelled a name on a headstone?
On a headstone?
Yeah, like a tombstone.
grave?
Yeah.
No?
He made a grave mistake.
I love those jokes. I love them. Cody, this was a lot of fun. Actually, I wouldn't call it fun. I mean, it was fun. But it was more educational than I thought it would be. Because when we spoke, like, what are we going to talk about? We already did an episode. And it was like, just we improvise, wing it. But we winged it quite well. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Yeah. Fun is a strong word. No, sure.
So,
you gave me coffee and some rakia.
Yeah,
And no, I mean, look, I love talking about these differences. These are things that I think about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to come here and your name is again
G.A.
Yeah. Okay. No, it was great. Yeah, I thought it would be more hilarity. But,
If we had done the episode at night, it would be because we would be drunk. But this way, it's like 12, so you're kind of inclined to be more, serious.
Yes.
Yeah. So next time you come, we can do it at night. Friday night.
Yes.
And no like Saturday morning TV shows where they talk to you about propuh. Okay.
Right. No, got it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
See you soon.
Yes, maybe. I don't know. We don't see each other. We used to see each other all the time. Now we don't.
We will. Hey, we have to meet to discuss next semester.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, good.
Get
okay,
ready
thanks for
for it.
listening. Thanks for listening. This is the second episode in English and probably the last.
Yeah, next time chip in na Hrvatsko.
Yeah. See you soon. Okay, it was good.
Yeah, cool.
1 hour and 40.